the concern about basic human security can distort behaviors. It distorts behaviors in certain ways on both sides, right? That is, for whites who are perpetrating violence, it is always this notion of threat. They feel threatened. There's fear. And it seems, at least by my view, certain of those fears is a pretty low threshold to feel fearful. Like, you're here, right? Sometimes appears to be the threshold. Sometimes it's a little bit higher. And blacks, in turn, feel fearful. Now, we feel fearful. I mean, there's lots of violence, and some of it's black on black, and some of it's white on black. But for those when it's police officer and black citizen, which is the one about which I think we are most vexed, in part because we all have to live under police, right? And there are ways in which you want police when they protect you, right? If there's harm, you want protection. So it's a pretty important dynamic to have sorted out for any citizen to feel that they can trust the police. And so that's a long kind of severed, that's a complicated relationship that American policing has with African Americans that dates back really to after slavery. And we're still kind of sorting that out. And some of it has to do with what it means to be a citizen in the US. I mean, that's what we're talking about in a way. Kind of the prize is full citizenship. And we're opening it, and our country today is a lot better than it was in 1965. And it's going to be a lot better still. And our discussions now, political conversation now, about taking our country back and the rest of it, has something to do with we are trying to figure out what the boundaries are of our community. And some people want to restrict them, and some want to open them. It seems to me that's the issue. And for us, a part of being a part of a community is feeling as if your physical safety, you have some safety in your personhood, and we don't have it yet. And it's going to require, right, kind of the attention that we see now beginning with talking about the practicing of policing. It's not the talk about policing. It's like, how do you train officers, right, so that when they're in certain situations, they don't go for deadly force immediately when they see us? Because I can't imagine that they don't have encounters with white people, but they don't end up dead. So there has to be something. I mean, that's where we are. But that had been a part of Jim Crow, right? I mean, it had been, deference. How do you behave? Don't sass me, nigga. Now, I wasn't born. I was born in '63. So I'm going on what I saw in Price. Right? But some part of it had to do with your body behavior had to display deference. Right. And we're not the only country that has those kind of customs, right? Nearly all customs where you have stratified societies, there are nonverbal cues about your place. And when you begin to, your body looks differently. If you carry yourself with a certain carriage, you're sending a signal, right? Officers, black soldiers, when they came back from World War II and they were having encounters with policemen, particularly bus drivers on buses. This is some of what our researchers found out. I didn't know. Did you know that in Atlanta, bus drivers were armed? Yeah. They were armed. And we're trying to figure out it was only on, if we don't know this, so we don't know if it was for the whole city or only on the black lines. But whatever the case, you're effectively deputizing bus drivers. And bus drivers took offense when black soldiers came on the bus and they stood like this because they just come back from the war. It was their carriage. And in some ways, what's going on today is about carriage. It's about kind of how now whites kind of look at it and say, well, you need to be quiet. When the cops say something to you, shut up. Evidently, we see it a little bit differently. We kind of think perhaps saying, officer, why are you doing this to me, isn't necessarily an infringement. We're not necessarily taking our lives into our own hands. But evidently, so that's kind of where we are today. And in that regard, it seems to me the legacy of civil rights continues, right? It is those basic interactions between black citizens and police officers, black citizens and other citizens. We, as all of citizens of the US, that's what's at stake today.